welcome. My name is Marcus Schubert. Welcome to the Max Breakthrough Science presentation with Dr. Daria Davidson. Before we get into the presentation, I would love to see where everybody is logged in from today. I know we've got people on from all over the world, so you can type that in the bottom left-hand side. You can see we've got people on from Port Stephens, New South Wales, people on from Perth, Mandurah, people from Mildura, Hyatt in Victoria, California, Canada. Welcome on more people from Perth, people from Toronto and Canada, New Zealand, Taupo, Perth, the Gold Coast, Vienna, wow, Illinois, Franklin, more people on from Wellington in New Zealand, Washington State. Welcome on Peggy from Kansas. We've got Jim from New South Wales, Maggie from New Zealand. Fantastic. Via from Carson, California. So we've got people logged in from all over the world. I know we've got some people on from the Philippines and Singapore as well. Let's get into the presentation. My name is Marcus Schubert. I'll be your host today. I'm logging in from the Gold Coast in Australia. Before we listen to Dr. Daria Davidson, which I'm very excited about, today we'll be talking about max breakthrough science and really posing a question: what would happen if you could optimize the function of every living cell in your body? Before we get to hear from Dr. Daria Davidson, I want to just share with you a bit about who's behind this company for a couple of minutes. The founders of this company are some extraordinary gentlemen, starting out with Stephen K. Scott. He started up a company back about 30 years ago called American Telecast. Now, you may or may not have heard of that company, but you've probably seen or heard of some of the breakthrough products that Stephen's company has brought to the world. Again, you can type in yes if you've ever heard of the Total Gym with Chuck Norris and Christy Brinkley. He partnered up to start this company with another gentleman by the name of Greg Fullerton, who also founded his own company called Franklin Quest, which later became Franklin Covey. Now, you've probably heard of the Covey Day Planner or the Franklin Day Planner, some of the books that have come out in the Covey series, like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He is a world-renowned speaker. He's shared the stage with people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. Now, these two guys come across a product which they believe was one of the biggest breakthrough products they had seen in their career. And they did something which was absolute genius. They believed this product was such a breakthrough that Steve approached his biggest competition in the infomercial business, which was two guys, Bill Guthrie and Greg Renker. You've probably heard of a company called Guthrie Renker. They are the worldwide sensation behind products like Zumba, Get the Edge with Tony Robbins, and Proactive Solution. These guys run a company which last year generated $1.8 billion in sales and has been marketed and do business in over 100 countries around the world. Now, to me, that was significant because this product we're about to talk about represented one of the biggest breakthroughs they have seen in all of their years of television. This company, Max International, was started up and was granted the exclusive worldwide licensing rights for the product we're about to talk about, Max GXL. To give you some more perspective, the company started out in February of 2007 and has gone on to do $100 million in sales in the first 1,000 days with zero advertising. In fact, we've now gone on to do over $200 million in sales in 4 short years with zero advertising. It's my honor and privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Daria Davidson. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to hearing from her because Dr. Daria Davidson has had over 30 years in healthcare, 20 years practicing emergency medicine. 11 of those years, she was a medical director of a level 1 trauma center. She has treated over 70,000 patients in her ER years. She is double board certified in emergency medicine and holistic medicine. She spent many years on the board of the American Heart Association. She has lectured in dozens of countries to almost 200,000 people on various aspects of health and nutrition. And she is also one of the advisory board members for the Max Medical Advisory Board. So it is my pleasure and privilege to hand over the presentation to Dr. Daria Davidson.
Hello there, everybody. So I'm checking in from the Seattle, Washington area, and there's a little momentary pause between changing speakers. I'm sure you can hear me fine. It is such a pleasure to be here with you today. Those of you who are watching the sun come up in the early part of Saturday, I haven't even gone to bed yet on Friday. And what I love about this kind of technology is it brings us all together. What I love about Max International is that it has taken something extraordinary that started in a physician's practice in Florida, which is in the United States, obviously, and now it's moving around the world, including to Australia and New Zealand. So it's such a pleasure to be here with you, Marcus. Thank you for the invitation. Part of what we'd like to accomplish today is to create a little overview that's actually quite suitable for physicians to listen into. If you've got a doctor that you might be speaking with and they're not as familiar with glutathione as you are, and by the way, that's not uncommon. So I'm going to be moving through stuff that will be certainly of general interest to everybody, but with a little twist to it for the physicians as well as perhaps the athletes that you might be speaking with. And if you're one of those people, then please listen up. So I would suggest to you that your life is too important to feel tired and run down and stressed and sore and achy and old and half asleep and dull and unhealthy and like you need a tune-up. Now, if you say, yeah, I never feel that way, good for you, I'm proud of you, but for the rest of us, that is a reality. Well, we're going to talk to you about the world of glutathione support. You've already seen that word at the top of the page, and what Max has brought to the marketplace that will literally change lives all over the world. What is glutathione? Well, let me back it up. In our bodies, there are 4 things that every single cell needs for the cell to even survive. It needs oxygen, it needs water, hydration, it needs fuel to burn for energy, and it needs glutathione. If any of these factors are absent, the cell will die. And if any of them are in less than optimal amounts, the cell will struggle to do its work. Now, it's fascinating because you wonder, well, I know what to do to get more oxygen, and that is to breathe, right? Hopefully fresh air. You know what to do to get more water, you drink it. You know what to do to get fuel to burn for energy, you eat it, hopefully healthy foods. And you may or may not know what to do to help with glutathione. The reality is glutathione is made within your body, so you do it on your own. Isn't that fabulous? We know in the human body there are about 50 trillion cells. Now, some experts say 20, some say 100. I just average it out at about 50 trillion, which is a lot. But what's also interesting is we create about 40 billion new cells every day, which means 40 billion are dying off, 40 billion new ones are showing up, and every single one of those living cells in your body needs glutathione. Now, if you've not heard of glutathione before, you're not the only person, at least out in the in the mainstream of our lives. But the reality is, if you look at the scientific sources, there's something here in the United States called PubMed, which is the United States National Library of Medicine at the National Institutes of Health, and the website for PubMed is www.pubmed.gov. If you pop in the word vitamin C, which we've all heard of course, you'll find 46,000 studies on vitamin C. If you pop in vitamin E, you'll find 32,000 studies on vitamin E. If you put in the word glutathione, you'll come up with 96,000, and those are not old studies. When I first looked at Max International and Max GXL, the product that is changing everything, it was in April of 2007. At that time, there were about 82,000 published articles on glutathione. It continues to be an area of great scientific research. And obviously the amount of glutathione scientific data is huge. You simply may not have heard of it before. Max GXL, which is the product that we will be talking about here in a moment, literally is a game changer completely in its ability to support your body's ability to make glutathione. The glutathione molecule was discovered about 120 years ago, so it's not new science, although new developments are occurring on a daily basis. It is the master antioxidant in every single cell in your body. I think we're all familiar with antioxidants. Well, every cell has many of them and needs them. Even in just a natural operation of the cell, in the production of energy, ATP, within the mitochondria of your cells, they make free radicals. You cannot make ATP without the production of free radicals, and if you cannot put out those free radical fires, the cell will literally die. Now, what's fascinating as well, if you look at my list here, master antioxidant, master anti-inflammatory, master detoxifier of every cell, and it's necessary for the production of the energy of that cell, ATP. Every cell has many mitochondria. Some cells have 100, some cells have 10,000. Mitochondria are the energy factories, the furnaces of your cell. That's where the ATP is produced. If there is not adequate glutathione within the mitochondria. The cell senses this and it will slow down its own energy production simply to keep from killing itself. So what happens is the cell will function but not optimally. Now when we think of energy, we think of our alertness and strength and things like that, but every cell has its unique job to do within our bodies, and our goal here is to support the functioning of each and every one of those marvelous cells. Glutathione is considered to be tens of thousands of times more powerful than vitamin C. Okay, abundant glutathione increases energy, slows down the aging process, aids muscle and joint recovery, strengthens your immune system, aids in cellular detoxification, fights cellular inflammation, robustly supports liver function. We'll talk about that more in a moment. Improves mental focus and clarity, improves quality of sleep, reduces the effects of stress, supports peak athletic performance, and improves the health and look of your skin. Pretty impressive. Once again, it's present in every single cell in your body if that's the case, and it would not be surprising if all of these different cells can do what they're supposed to do better. It's not surprising that we will see these kind of things. And as people begin using Max GXL or Max 1, another product that we'll talk about briefly today as well, you'll find frequently we hear reports of, wow, I've got tons of energy. Oh my gosh, I'm sleeping incredibly well and I'm dreaming. I feel very wide awake and very energized first thing in the morning. It's very common for us to hear reports about how young you look. Your skin looks great. As a matter of fact, with my husband, when he first started using Max GXL, which was in April of 2007, he was taking it because I knew that it was good for us, and I said, okay, we're taking it. Well, about 2 months into it, some women at work came up to him and said, okay, we think you're using Grecian Formula, which is a hair color product for men to get rid of the gray, because your hair is changing color, but your skin looks really good too, so we don't think it's Grecian Formula. What are you doing? So that was a surprise. Obviously, we weren't paying attention to that. As I looked at them, I realized what they were talking about. So abundant glutathione will do wonderful things within your body. Glutathione is diminished by many, many things. We generally talk about as you age, your glutathione level starting at age 20 will go down about 1% per year, so 10% per decade, and that indeed is true. And if that were the only problem, you might say, well, I guess I can wait until I'm older than I am now. I'll worry about that later. But aging absolutely will lower your ability to make glutathione. Stress will definitely lower your glutathione level, whether this is physical stress or emotional stress. And I don't know about other parts of the world, but I will tell you in the United States, most of us are dealing with a great deal of stress. Inflammation will directly reduce your glutathione because you're using it up to deal with the inflammatory issues. Sun exposure will also decrease glutathione. We know that sun exposure is very good for creating vitamin D, but it also causes free radical damage to your skin, and your body will help deal with that by the glutathione that it makes. Glutathione is very, very high in the skin. We know that during athletic activities, the amount of glutathione in the skeletal muscle goes down about 40% within the first 10 minutes of aerobic activity. We know that sleep deprivation will lower your glutathione levels. And this is an interesting thing, because although we talk about, oh, most people have adequate glutathione until they're about 20, I'm not sure that that's really the case. Our teenagers nowadays are highly sleep deprived. They're up late on the internet or on their cell phones or sending text messages or stuff that just the kids are doing that are keeping them up way too late. So I think that we may be having some issues that are occurring with our young people even before the age of 20. And the last thing on that list is environmental toxins. Obviously, we would prefer to avoid those things, but we all know that in the air we breathe, in the foods that we eat, there will be, and sometimes in the things we put on our skin, there will be toxins that will hurt us if they're left unchecked. In addition, it's not on this list, but one other thing that glutathione is diminished by is toxins that you literally take in orally. So maybe you didn't breathe it in, but you took something, you ate something orally, and that diminished glutathione. One of the big things that will do that is a pharmaceutical agent called acetaminophen, which is commonly called Tylenol in the United States. Acetaminophen is used to help a fever go down. It will be used for pain management. Those are the two reasons for taking Tylenol, in many other things as well. But acetaminophen, if you take too much of it, it will kill you. And it kills you by sucking the glutathione right out of your liver. The liver is the main detoxifier of the body. The liver is extremely rich in glutathione. If you cannot maintain glutathione in your liver, the liver will die, and if the liver dies, you will die as well. So with glutathione, it's going to be a supply and demand situation. You will make it, and that is how you will do it. You will make it, and then the demand on it may outweigh your ability to keep the supply up, or it may not. Your goal, if you're trying to keep yourselves healthy, is to keep it in balance, and certainly to have adequate glutathione to handle the issues. Now, we're not here to talk about any kind of a drug at all. The products that Max International brings to the market are nutritional supplements. We have a skincare line now too. That's awesome. Everything that you put in your body is a nutritional supplement. By law in the United States, nutritional supplements cannot ever be sold to diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure any kind of a disease, but they may be sold to support the structure and function of your body and to maintain your good health. Well, considering that glutathione is necessary for the functioning and life of every cell in your body, if you could do something to support your glutathione, those cells can do what they're supposed to do better. This is not related to our product, but these are just a short list of some of the health conditions that we know are directly related to low glutathione levels. So you can see there's quite a number of things here, and I'm sure you're looking around this page right now seeing them. I don't need to go down this big list. Obviously, there's some scary things here that your eyes are being drawn to, either because you have a concern about that or you know somebody who does. If indeed someone you know is dealing with a condition and you share information that allows them to make an educated decision for themselves, that supports the functioning of their body and specifically their ability of their body to make glutathione, then their body has its own great wisdom to do a lot of wonderful work. Here's a continuation of the list, again, many other things, and this is not the complete list. We actually know that low glutathione is correlated to literally everything that we see with aging. Even trauma, it's actually on this list, is very much correlated with low glutathione because of the stress that it causes on the body. So again, for us to get an idea that, wow, even people who do have a concern, would they want to know about something that could support the health of their cells? If you're a doctor watching this, obviously you have a doctor-patient relationship. You do get to diagnose and treat diseases and prevent them as well in your medical practice. I will tell you that if you choose to add Max GXL to your practice, as I do in my practice, that it's designed to support the functioning of the cells, and if we can do that better, then very frequently the things that we would do with a pharmaceutical agent simply become not necessary because the body has already rebalanced itself. So as a doctor, you have a little bit more freedom than other people. For the rest of you, you're simply allowing your body to do its best work by supporting glutathione. So let's talk about glutathione a little bit more. I would suggest to you that it is a critical molecule, and I think I've shown you a little bit of data on that. In my background, I was an ER doc for 20 years, and I've then done a lot of work in integrative medicine, functional medicine for the last 15 or 16 years, and have lectured a lot on nutrition. The importance of glutathione is critical. So let's ask ourselves, okay, well, if it's really that critical, and by the way, in the emergency room, it is critical. If someone comes in and we believe they might have taken a Tylenol acetaminophen overdose, we will test their blood to see what their level is. If it's too high, we have to treat it. The treatment is all about supporting glutathione production in their liver, because without the glutathione, the liver is dead, and without their liver, they're dead. The critical step for the production of glutathione is the delivery of intact cysteine into the cell. Cysteine is an amino acid, and it has a little fragile corner to it that's called the sulfhydryl group. If you don't have that sulfhydryl group attached to the cysteine, it's not going to do what it needs to do. So the goal, whether I'm treating a Tylenol overdose in the emergency room or whether I'm simply just trying to support glutathione production in my body is to make sure I've got cysteine in the cell in a form that can be utilized by the cell. So if you look at, well, what could we be doing to support glutathione levels before max GXL? Glutathione supplements that are sold as an oral agent, in other words, just pills that are glutathione, are available online and certainly at stores. And by the way, those of you who are tuning in from the Philippines, you have a very unique reality there. In the Philippines, movie stars have this gorgeous skin, and everybody wants gorgeous skin. It's customary for movie stars to use intravenous glutathione, and the word all around is, oh my gosh, I want glutathione. I want to have beautiful skin too. So oral glutathione supplements are very common in the Philippines, much less so every place else. Well, we know when glutathione is taken orally, it simply gets broken down during the digestive process of the stomach. See, it's made of 3 simple amino acids that are bound together, but that would look like a little bit of protein coming through your stomach. So if you just take glutathione orally, it is broken apart and it's no longer glutathione. Even if the 3 amino acids made it through the digestive tract, cysteine being one of them, the sulfhydryl group is very, very fragile and it gets broken off easily. So the likelihood of taking an oral glutathione agent and having intact cysteine make it through the intestines, into the bloodstream, through the bloodstream to the cells in your body with the sulfhydryl group intact is considered to be minimal at best. And I would suggest one other bit of evidence. If oral glutathione were the way to do it, that is what we would do in the emergency room if someone had taken an overdose of acetaminophen. And we do not give oral glutathione in the emergency room for that reason or anything else. The second thing on the list is when glutathione is given intravenously. I've just told you that if you take it orally, it's going to be broken down by the digestive process in your stomach and small intestine. So the way to bypass that is to simply take it intravenously. And actually there are even creams that people now sell that are topical. You put it on your skin and hopefully it gets absorbed through. That's very, very hit and miss, but intravenous is not hit and miss. It definitely gets inside of your bloodstream, which is a very, very good thing. It's expensive, it's very short acting, it's not regenerating glutathione, it's simply providing glutathione to the outside of your cells. Our bloodstream is made up of the fluid of the blood and the cells in the blood. Glutathione resides inside of your cells. About 2% is outside the cell, 98% is inside the cell. The molecule itself is too big to just diffuse into the cell. The only cells that even have a receptor to carry glutathione from the outside in are some of the cells in the lung, some of the cells in the small intestine, and a few in the kidney. Nobody else can do that. So again, the other cells are dependent on making their own glutathione on the inside. And if intravenous glutathione were the way to go, that's what we would do in the emergency room for acetaminophen overdoses, and we don't do that either. By the way, folks, the only antioxidant, glutathione is, as I said earlier, 100,000 times stronger than vitamin C. It's the only antioxidant, whether you take it in your diet or your supplements or whether you make it yourself, because there's other ones that we make ourselves also, none as important as the guardian of the cell, which is glutathione. But glutathione is the only molecule that's an antioxidant that our body has an enzyme that it makes to try to recycle it. So think about that. Glutathione is the only antioxidant that can handle every single type of free radical. It can also handle detoxifying the cell, inflammation, supporting ATP production. Our bodies make an enzyme to try to keep it in operation longer. So if you think it may not be that important, trust me, the data is very clear that it's critically important. So intravenous glutathione, there are some practitioners who will offer that. We often use it in a medical model, and I've seen it used for things like Parkinson's and supporting function during Parkinson's. And actually, intravenous glutathione would, I think, be considered a drug at that point if you're giving it intravenously. So we've seen it for Parkinson's. We've seen it for different types of cancer managements, fibromyalgia, that type of thing. If you're using it in your practice right now, if you're a healthcare professional, a physician is using this in your practice, I would suggest that you should see what happens with your patients when you move over to Max GXL. And actually, I did have an interesting conversation with a physician a few years ago. He was a doctor who was using intravenous glutathione within his practice. He's an internal medicine doctor who also was board certified in holistic medicine, was doing integrative care. He was using intravenous glutathione for his Parkinson's patients, and he stumbled upon Max GXL all by himself. He decided to purchase some and took 10 of his patients and moved them from the intravenous glutathione to oral Max GXL capsules, and the results were staggeringly better for him. He was completely confused. He called the company and asked to speak with a physician who could explain to him why that would be the case, because he could not fathom that anything taken orally could surpass what he could accomplish with intravenous glutathione. Again, if you look at the physiology, it makes total sense. So oral glutathione is not something we do for acetaminophen overdose. Intravenous glutathione is not something we do for acetaminophen overdose. You can also take large doses of whey protein. Whey protein has a lot of cysteine in it, and if you take large doses of it, some of that cysteine with the sulfhydryl group will get through. The challenge is it takes a lot of it. Most people are not willing to take that much, and even with it, if you're lucky, you can get your glutathione production to go up in the range of 15 to 20%, which is better than nothing, but it's not that high considering the price you pay for just taking that much whey protein. You can also try to decrease your exposure to sources of free radicals, and that would mean decreasing your stress, decreasing your exposure to environmental toxins, improving your sleep, that kind of thing. You should do that anyway if you can. The last thing on the list here is, what if you just can take cysteine orally? Remember I said that the cysteine is what it takes for your body to be able to make glutathione. So can't I just buy cysteine? That says L-cysteine. It either comes in the shape of L or R, and R has no effect in the human body. L is the only one that does have an effect. But unprotected L-cysteine with that little sulfhydryl group, unprotected, will be broken through the process of getting from the digestive tract into the cell, generally not having an intact sulfhydryl group. So what we've always done, and this is for the 20 years I was an ER doc, it's still true today, is in order to treat an acetaminophen overdose with the goal of supporting glutathione production in the liver, we give a protected form of cysteine. And what I mean by that is we give large doses of cysteine, either orally or intravenously. You can go either way. But it has a molecule attached to it that simply protects that sulfhydryl group so that it can't get broken off before the amino acid gets into your cell. So that's been the world of glutathione support until now, and it all boils down. Everybody who knows anything on glutathione will tell you that the rate limiting step to the production of glutathione in your body is delivering adequate intact cysteine into the cell so that you can produce glutathione. Okay, let's move right along. So let's talk about Max GXL. You heard me mention it, and indeed I said it started in a clinic in Florida. Well, let's look at the man who in some ways stumbled into it, and in a whole lot of ways just had so much grit and determination that he was not about to give up. This is Dr. Robert Keller. Dr. Keller served on the faculty of Mayo Graduate School of Medicine. I don't know if you've heard of the Mayo Clinic in other parts of the world, but it's very prestigious here in the United States. He was ranked by Consumer Research Council, which is a consumer research group, as one of the top doctors in the United States in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. What that tells you is his clinical management of patients was extraordinary. So in that part of it, he's a good clinical doctor. His specialties included internal medicine, immunology, and hematology. Very intelligent person to have 3 different specialties. None of the 3 are easy. To have all 3 is quite an accomplishment. So now I know he's really smart. I know that he's a good clinical doctor and gets good, year after year Consumer Research Council. In addition, the Cambridge Registry out of England ranked him as one of the top 2,000 scientists for the 21st century in the entire world. So a list of 2,000 people, most of whom did not have an MD, they had PhDs, were ranked there. In addition, the National Hemophilia Foundation gave him Humanitarian of the Year. He's got over 100 published articles in 75 chapters of medical textbooks, many different patents that were awarded to him. What you get a sense, and by the way, he's got a 30-page resume or CV. I've just picked a few things here. But you get a sense that he was a good doctor. He was a hard-working doctor. He was evidently bright with his multiple specialties. He spent a lot of time not just in clinical medicine but also in the research lab, and he was a good guy. I mean, Humanitarian of the Year. Again, if it's interesting because I think, well, how many of us know a doctor who has these things, right? That was given this broad of a recognition in the world for who he was. Dr. Keller in his patient practice had some very, very, very sick people, and he was trying to figure out some way to support their ability to stay, in many cases, alive, but at least to improve the quality of life. He found that if he could work toward getting their body's ability to improve glutathione up, that would make a difference, and that is indeed is true. Well, he worked on this for 10 years, multiple different iterations of this, where he would put together a concoction of things, try it on his patients. They would report back and say how they were feeling, but he would also do a blood test to measure it. And by the way, measuring glutathione is not easy. It needs to be measured inside of the cell. Well, the only cells that we have access to easily to measure it inside would be either red blood cells or white blood cells. And in all of the United States, there's only 2 laboratories that do intracellular white blood cell glutathione analysis, one of which is Mayo Clinic. That's only available for their research capability, and that may have been where Dr. Keller was accessing his ability to do that. But he was doing the scientist thing. He was giving the product, seeing how his patients were feeling, but also measuring the results. And from that, a product showed up that has now become Max GXL. Max GXL is such a dramatic breakthrough that it was granted a composition patent by the U.S. Patent Office. Composition patents are normally given to pharmaceutical agents, not to nutritional supplements. Supplements can get method patents, but rarely will a supplement get a composition patent. There's probably 12 to 15 that have ever been given in the nutritional industry. Max is one of them. Max contains no glutathione, Max GXL. That's a very good thing. When I first heard about this product, I asked a question, what's so special about your new product? And the answer was it helps your body make glutathione. If that were actually true, that's very big. I looked at the label, and indeed there was no glutathione, and that made me very happy. There are 8 different ingredients in there that work synergistically to dramatically increase your body's ability to produce glutathione. Dramatically increase your body's ability to produce glutathione. It doesn't make you make glutathione. It doesn't force you to make glutathione. It simply provides an environment where if your cells want to make glutathione, they have the capability of doing so. It contains the critical cysteine molecule in a protected form. That little sulfhydryl group is not hanging out there. It's covered so it doesn't get broken on the way in. And all of the ingredients are well known to people like me who have worked hard in the nutritional industry for years, all well documented in the scientific community. In other words, no new twig or berry that somebody found growing in their backyard that now all of a sudden is supposed to have magical capability. I was very happy with everything I saw there. This next slide looked at some of the patients in Dr. Keller's clinic. Now, these are not necessarily healthy people. One of these groups, the first one, are just healthy people. And what they showed is that they doubled their intracellular glutathione production. Group 2, 3, and 4, and again, this is in his clinical practice. This is only for the doctors who are listening, because you get to treat diseases. So did Dr. Keller. He had HIV, he had hepatitis C, he had fibromyalgia, reflected in these studies here. What you'll notice is the first group number 2 went up about 400%. Group number 3 went up about a little bit over 300%, like 350%. Group number 4 went up 300%. In addition, he looked at what happened in group 2 and 3 after he stopped it, and they all went right back down again. This was after 3 months of use. So in his clinical practice, the patients were already reporting in, gosh, doc, I feel really good. I'm like, I've got energy. I'm out doing yard work or gardening. I'm playing with the kids. Something's different here. And he was impressed even before he saw the lab work because the patients were reporting it back to him. So what happened, though, was Dr. Keller had created it for his clinic. It rested there for a few years, but he knew that it needed to somehow get out to the rest of the world. Well, of all the talents that Dr. Keller has, being a big marketing guy is not one of them. As it turns out, he was introduced to Stephen K. Scott. Marcus talked about him earlier, who does have a profound marketing background. They decided to test the product. They actually handed out a 1-week sample to about 1,000 people, and they said, hey, just give us some feedback on this, and the phones were ringing off the hook. And that's after a week, and there's nothing about it that should make that much difference in a week, but we're all unique individuals. All you'll know at the end of a week is if you're beginning to see some of the clues that we like to see. But look at this. Because it was brought to the world through Max International as a nutritional supplement, we do not treat diseases with a supplement. It is designed to support the structure and function of your body, so it would be really important to see what happens in healthy people. So the company had a double-blind, placebo-controlled, crossover clinical study in healthy people done. Double-blind means you don't know if you're getting the real thing or the placebo, and the person giving it to you does not know either, so they can't wink at you and tell you you're getting the good stuff. Crossover means you had 8 weeks on one, a 2-week washout period, and then you moved to the opposite. So whichever group you were in at first, you got the opposite product at the end of the other half of it. The people were between the ages of 31 and 72 years of age. At 60 days of use with the Max GXL, every person had improvement in glutathione. The average was 276% increase in intracellular glutathione with Max GXL in healthy people. Because sometimes when we're healthy, we're thinking, well, do I actually need this stuff? Well, evidently, with the reality of the lives that these people lived, when they were given the opportunity to make glutathione better, their bodies took advantage of that, 276% increase. But if you look right below that, 46% increase in DHEA and 41% increase in IGF-1. IGF-1 is a direct reflector of growth hormone production, which is produced throughout our life, very high levels as a child, lower as we get older. It's made in the pituitary gland, and when I see what IGF is doing, that gives me a good clue of how healthy the pituitary is, and indeed how much growth hormone may be being made by the pituitary. The DHEA went up 46%. That's an adrenal marker, and again, the pituitary tells the adrenal what to do. So what you see with this is improved adrenal functioning, even though these people did not have an adrenal problem, but we can kind of figure that they have stress in their lives too, like most of us do, and the adrenals will react to stress a lot by what they do. And this shows an improvement in adrenal function for these people and also pituitary function just based on the IGF-1 improving. In addition, 61% decrease in one of the inflammatory markers that we can measure in blood called TNF-alpha. Now, why would that be the case? Well, if indeed glutathione is the master anti-inflammatory, it would just make sense that if you've improved your ability to deal with inflammatory circumstances, you would see these numbers go down. So that's in the general population. But then we started to see something occurring within the athletic population. If you're an athlete, please listen carefully here. The reality is that if indeed you can improve the health of your cells and you can improve the environment within the mitochondria such that there's adequate glutathione to handle the production of ATP, those cells can do what they're supposed to do better. A couple of the many stories we have from athletes are shown right here. First of all, on the left side of the screen there, you see a guy that looks like he's probably like a boxing champion. Fascinating, if you look at the side of his trunks, he has Max GXL right down the side of his trunks. This is a man by the name of Evander Holyfield. He was a 4-time world heavyweight champion in retirement. Started using Max GXL at age 47. He came out of retirement. He had a bout last year with another heavyweight world champion holder and beat him. So he became a 5-time world heavyweight champion at age 47, several years older than the person he was in the competition against. Right at on the right side of the screen there is a fellow by the name of Bill Gillespie. Bill Gillespie held many records for bench pressing. He used to hold the open world record of bench pressing 800 pounds, and that was passed by somebody who did 801, and that was in a much younger age. At age 49, and using Max products, drug testing before, like he always has, he's always been drug-free his entire career, he set 4 new world records in a single day in consecutive lifts, the last of which went past the all-time record, which means at all ages, at all weights, he surpassed it at 804 pounds. And indeed, he lifted another one after that. It just didn't count because you can only count 4 lifts, but he put another 20 pounds on it that day. So what happened for these gentlemen is exactly what you would expect to happen. If you can support optimal functioning of your cells. They have well-conditioned cells. Their cells are capable of making ATP. You simply need to provide the environment where that can get done. Okay. In addition, we are certified for sport. Now, what does that mean? For average people, it just sounds good. For those of you who do professional athletics, it's NSF certified for sport. That's a huge deal because that one is required for the professional leagues here in the United States, but it goes far beyond testing for banned substances. It also looks at sources of raw materials, how are those raw materials handled, what's the manufacturing process like, all of that. The Bureau of Food and Drugs in the Philippines has certified it. The World Anti-Doping Agency has certified it. National Collegiate Athletic Association has certified, as well as Consumer Labs. So we do have sports certification for this product. I will be finished here very, very quickly. I'm sorry, didn't click in the right place. One of the questions that I do want to cover for the doctors who are listening is, what are there any contraindications for Max GXL? And we're going to give you a website a little further on here that you can go listen to some of the information there that will educate you even further. In Max GXL, we have N-acetyl D-glucosamine, which comes from the shell of a clam. It is a mineral format. It's not the animal itself. If somebody says, I have a shellfish allergy, because we do label that on the bottle, they may be concerned about taking it, and indeed there is no shellfish in it. It should not be a problem, but just be aware. In addition, cordyceps is part of it, which is a mushroom. There are tens of thousands of different species of mushrooms. If someone has a mushroom allergy, they may develop a rash or something along those lines. It's quite unlikely, but it is possible. So first of all, contraindications if you think you're allergic to a component of it. Another contraindication would be if you're on a chemotherapy agent that ends in the word platin, P-L-A-T-I-N. Platin stands for platinum, which is a heavy metal, platinum-based chemotherapy agent. It kills the cells because it damages them with heavy metals. Well, Max supports glutathione production. Glutathione is the master detoxifier of the cell. It carries heavy metals out very well, including mercury, if that's something you're concerned about. So if somebody's taking a chemotherapy agent ending in the word platin, we don't want to escort that right out of the cell more quickly than what the doctor who prescribed it thinks it's going to be released as. So that would be a good time to avoid it. If somebody's on an anti-rejection medication, let's say they've had a heart or a liver or kidney transplant, they're on medications to depress their immune system. The immune system is highly, highly active. It uses a lot of glutathione. There's no guarantee that your immune system won't get a whole lot healthier if you support glutathione production. If your immune system gets a whole lot healthier, it's possible that you will override the anti-rejection capability of the meds that your doctor put you on, and therefore it would be something that I would be extremely cautious about. We'll always recommend that if you're on medications, absolutely talk to your doctor before you do anything anyway. Okay, so that's kind of the background of Max GXL. It's been an extraordinary product. You heard earlier, $100 million in sales in the first 1,000 days of this company. That is an extraordinary beginning. We are completely delighted with what we see happening for people. But Max International is committed to being the world leader in glutathione research, development, and deployment. We are constantly looking at what's available that can make matters better. Well, as it turns out, a wonderful scientist came and found us, and Max felt it was a good match. So we added a wonderful addition to our profile here, and that was the acquisition of Celgevity, which is a company owned by Dr. Herbert Nagasawa. Dr. Nagasawa is a PhD scientist of the highest order, over 40 years in research in biochemistry and medicinal chemistry, multiple professorships in pharmacology, toxicology, biochemistry, medicinal chemistry, inventor in many, many patents. Listen to this, senior editor for the Journal of Medicinal Chemistry for 32 years. That's a difficult journal. It's very, very technical. If you even try to read one article, you'll be swamped unless you are a biochemist. And he was recognized as a scientist who created the antidote for cyanide poisoning. That happened in December of 2007. After the September 11th attacks here in the United States, the government here put out a request to the scientific community for somebody to come up with a 3-minute solution to cyanide gas exposure, that if you took it within 3 minutes of exposure orally, that it would not kill you. Cyanide gas is highly lethal. and Dr. Nagasawa was the one who got that done. So that this man he's a great humanitarian in his own right, but he's a relentless scientist. Well, the product that he was working on has now got a name, and it's called Max 1, and some of you are taking Max 1. A lot of us are taking Max GXL. We've had it around much, much longer, and some of us take a combination of the two. What's fascinating about Max 1, it's really simple. It's got one component in it, which is called ribosine. Now, ribosine is the cysteine molecule that I said, as I've already told you, you have to protect the sulfhydryl group for it to even get its job done. Well, cysteine was necessary, so ribosine, you get the idea that the sine goes with the cysteine part of it. You have to protect it through the digestive tract. Well, another component that's part of your cellular function is the molecule ATP. We've already talked about it. That molecule needs ribose to be made. Now, normally we just take another type of a sugar, a 6-carbon sugar, convert it to ribose, which is a 5-carbon sugar, and make our ATP. It's not a huge problem, but ribose, and some people use it in very large doses for different health issues. What he was able to do, and he first published on this in 1987, he was able to get the cysteine to attach to a ribose molecule. It's not easy to do, but it's very intact and very stable. Ribose is easily absorbed through the GI tract, so this is extremely potent compared to any other type of cysteine that's been protected that we've come across before. Gets through the digestive tract easily, gets into the cell easily, and once it gets inside the cell, the cysteine becomes available for making glutathione, and the ribose becomes available for making ATP. It's a sweet, sweet formulation and very simple physiologically. So once again, abundant glutathione. Here's the thing. My job is to help you be aware. Your job is to use good judgment. Everything we know would tell us that supporting glutathione for most of us in most circumstances is in our own best interest. If you would prefer to have improved energy, slow the aging process at the physiologic level, help your muscles and joints recover when you exercise, have a strengthened and healthy immune system, help get toxins out of your body, help keep the inflammation under control, support your washing machine of your body, which is your liver, improve your mental focus and the clarity, improve the quality of your sleep, deal with stresses that are a part of reality, support peak athletic performance, or improve the way your skin looks and feels, then glutathione support makes sense for you. I've never seen nothing before Max GXL that was all that impressive. I was using some of the other things that everybody uses just to try to get there from here. Was okay. I mean, I could do the 15 to 20% improvement too, but Max GXL gave us a 276% improvement in healthy people. It's unheard of. So what you have here is the heart of a man, Dr. Robert Keller, taking care of patients who are looking him in the eye, saying, "Doctor, is there something you could do to help me?" And Dr. Herbert Nagasawa working tirelessly, far beyond 40 hours a week, looking in the microscope, looking in the laboratory setting, trying to figure it out, so that he could support the health of people that he didn't even know. These are two people with one goal and one dream, and that dream is to improve the intracellular wellness of people without the barrier of a prescription. That's what Max International has been able to bring to the marketplace. Those of you who are in Australia and New Zealand, hey, you've got it too, and we're thrilled for you. It's been certainly a huge thing here in the United States for improving health. Max Breakthrough Science supports critical cellular functioning. It works with the wisdom and the elegance of our physiology, our bodies, provides clean and healthy support for us, is 100% proprietary to Max International. Nowhere else will you get either one of them, and is already changing the face of wellness. Now, there's a website at the bottom of that of your screen there, rx4maxsuccess.com. Feel free to visit that site. That is a site where I do a call most Wednesday nights on different health issues. But there is a tab there. It says Why Max, or if you just go to the archive calls, it will show no, I think it has its own tab. It says Why Max. Just listen to that call. It's a good little overview. You'll find a lot of information there as well. So with that, I'm done. I'm going to turn this back over to Marcus. Marcus, I know you said I could go a little longer, and I did, so I hope that's okay. I'm going to sign off now and turn this right back over to you. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Daria. One of the things I'm very passionate about, and especially as a an Australian Advisory Council member, is making sure that we promote this product in a professional and an ethical and a responsible way. And I think you've done a great thing today that we've been able to record this. Unfortunately, we've maxed out the capacity of the room. It only holds 100 people, so there's a lot of people who would miss this today that we can now get this recording out to. For those of you listening to the presentation, currently this product is available in the following markets: the USA, Canada, Philippines, New Zealand, Singapore and Australia, and also in Puerto Rico. So please get back to the person who's invited you onto this presentation. It's very important that you connect with that person. They can let you know what products are currently available in your market. If you're looking just to purchase this product as a customer, they can let you know the purchase options, how to get that product direct at the cheapest price, delivered direct to your door. If you are interested to become a Max Independent Associate, so you can help us to promote this product to the people around you, the person who's invited you on can help you to do that. So I want to thank you, all of you, for your time and your interest today. If there's any reason that you need to get a hold of me, you can just contact me through my team website at maxallstars.com. So thank you again, Dr. Daria Davidson, on behalf of everybody who's listening to this live or listening to the recorded presentation. I really appreciate your time and effort on this, and I look forward to working with you. So thanks everybody for joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you somewhere in the Max International world. Good day and good night, everybody.